today is the last day of August and 2021, and this is Josh Bottom. I'm going to kick off the Kubeflow community meeting call today, and we have a really nice agenda, and I'd like to see if we could get this kicked off. You can see that I'm projecting it now, and I believe that we do have a fairly substantial topic here at the top with James Wu. And then we'll get into some regular programming around Kubeflow 1.4. I think Anna is going to help us there, and then talk about some documentation and some walk-on topics. So James, do I need to give you the sharing capabilities, or are you good to start off?
Yes, please. Can I share my deck?
I've stopped sharing, so I believe you should be able to share.
Okay, sorry, let me figure out how to do, okay, here it is. Share screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is James Wu. I'm from Google. And I kind of lead the engineering team in Kubeflow pipelines, and also part of the Kubeflow team at Google. So, so today I want to talk about the Kubeflow conformance program proposal that Google has come up with. So I think there has been discussion about this probably since last year, and it took quite a bit of time for us to put together this proposal. Because of all the internal discussions and sign off that needs to happen. Yeah, so let's get into it. Okay, next page. Yeah, so the overview of the program is going to be very similar to the Kubernetes conformance program in format. So it's going to be a sort of a narrowly applicable program to basically two things. So one is the distributions of Kubeflow, and secondly, Kubeflow applications. And I'll define what application means a bit later. So to obtain the certification, the tests are really narrowly scoped. So these are not tests like functional tests that tries to verify every aspect of your program or your application or distribution, right? So these are tests that are mainly aiming to making sure that the system under certification meets the basic standards, and also in the case of applications would work well with each other in the larger context of Kubeflow. So we're hoping, by doing that, the benefits that it's going to bring to Kubeflow and the community are, one is, ensure the common standard of interoperability. That means like applications and the distributions that are shipping these applications, the applications that work well with each other, they form sort of a cohesive set within Kubeflow. Also, by doing that, it promotes customer confidence when they're using Kubeflow, where they can be their mind can be at ease that the basic functionality are included, and also it gives sort of a defined path for projects outside of Kubeflow to obtain the Kubeflow trademark, right? And which is going to be a process that's kind of monitored and by a body that follows a fixed process. So basically third party, no, sorry, not third party, but like projects and even projects outside of Kubeflow can use this process, right, to obtain the Kubeflow designation. So these are kind of the overview of the program. Any questions so far? By the way, I have a detailed proposal at the end, so this is just giving a high-level read of the program. So what does certification look like under the program, right? So again, there's two designations. So one is the certified distributions. Again, the exact name of the the certification is to be TBD, but it could be something like certified Kubeflow, or probably certified Kubeflow, because that's how Kubernetes designate the certified distributions as well. But that's I think could be discussed, right? So for distributions, the process will look like, first of all, excuse me. So install the distribution, of course, and then run a set of conformance tests, and these tests would be kind of like basically a subset of E2E test today for Kubeflow, and and the tests are going to be centered around pipelines and metadata. Second thing is submit the results to the Kubeflow trademark team, and then if the test passes, then the certification is obtained. And we're also thinking about adding a catalog somewhere on a website, right, to kind of list all the certified distributions. Next is for applications. Now the process is very similar, only the kind of the test is going to be different. So again, so for applications, right? So we think that the pipeline and metadata is a glue around for all the is a glue for all the applications within Kubeflow. So the certification process would require a Kubeflow app component, sorry, KFP component, and by using the standard kind of interface for components, metadata is automatically covered, because Kubeflow pipelines automatically records metadata for standard components. So in this case, the test is going to run a static verification tool. The test will not try to verify every function, the functionality of the component, only that the application conforms to the interface of KFP component, and then submit results to the Kubeflow trademark team again, obtain certification, and then again we're thinking about having an application catalog, right, that can list all the applications that are certified. The name is kind of TBD, so there are proposals saying maybe like calling Kubeflow native application, or certified Kubeflow application, and so on. So so it's not, so the name isn't fully determined at this point. Yeah, and we're open to suggestions about the name as well. And so lastly, I shared a detailed doc about the conformance test. Let me just quickly flash. Let me see if I can share this tab. Yeah, so this was the doc that was linked at the end of the presentation. So please, feel free to kind of read through this doc, and then leave your feedback. We're looking for feedback from the community, and we're hoping that in the next few months we would be able to we will be able to start the work. Yeah, so that's my quick presentation, and yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions from the audience.
Hey, James, this is Joanna. I think this is an excellent idea. I have a question with regards to, you mentioned the Kubeflow trademark team. So today
Yeah.
in CNCF, if you want to submit, you basically submit a PR for your test results, and it's open. Everybody can see it. So who is the Kubeflow TradeDeck team, and is it open for everybody to see?
So yeah, so the Kubeflow trademark team right now consists of Google folks. Google right now owns the trademark, and right now it's basically, I think it's me, also Thea, and also a bunch of other, folks from Google. Eventually, I'm not sure. So this is something I need to discuss internally with probably Thea, because we were also talking about whether we can have the open usage console in Google to take care of it. And open usage console is a body that does a lot of trademark governing for other open source project for Google. So so this part is not finalized. So yeah, but I think so it's probably gonna be either the Kubeflow trademark team if we continue to have that team, and also could be like the open usage console. I think Kubernetes also uses open usage console for certification purposes.
So they have a conformance repo on GitHub. I think everybody can see what's happening there.
Yeah, I think the repo is where so you can submit your test, right? So the test, I think the results and so on could be
a PR. Okay.
Yeah, the PR. Yeah, the PR will be open. Yeah.
Okay. I'm guessing the decision is a pass and fail with deterministic criteria, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
It's yeah.
All right, and then is there a reason why pipeline metadata was chosen first, or is this just are other components going to be added?
I think there was probably a lot of discussion sometime back when Jeremy, right, was still part of Kubeflow. So I think the reason that we have chosen I guess in this proposal that pipeline and metadata is chosen is because pipeline is kind of the glue, right, for all the applications. And so is metadata, and there is I guess a good question about what happens to applications that are kind of not orchestration targets for pipeline, or maybe does not record metadata, right? So I think for projects within Kubeflow that are currently in Kubeflow, I think they would probably automatically be granted the certification. For project outside of Kubeflow, and this is one of the main reasons that we have this program, is for outside projects to be able to participate in the Kubeflow ecosystem, right? I think having having them integrate with pipeline and metadata is a pretty good way of showing, ensuring that their interoperability with everything else in Kubeflow. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I had a question. Can I ask?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So if I want to make a recommender system using Kubeflow and also using NVIDIA Merlin, would I need to, and make it later open source, would I need to make an application to use the Kubeflow trademark for that?
If you're, let's see. So are you releasing a product, or are you like what is the form factor of your?
Yeah. So it uses Kubeflow as well as NVIDIA Merlin, which is an open source recommender system. We can make recommender system using
Yeah.
NVIDIA Merlin. And so I'm going to combine both of them and release a open source project from that, and also name it something like Kubeflow NVIDIA Merlin. So would I need to apply to use the trademark?
So if this is something that so if this is something that releasing that is expected to be, I would say, shared and integrated with other Kubeflow components, right? Then I think the Kubeflow application certification would apply. In this case, you're releasing an application, so I don't think the distribution certification would apply.
Yeah.
Right. So if either one of those apply, then yeah, you can go through this process. If these don't apply, then we also have a trademark guidance in general for using the term Kubeflow, and I can probably pin this to the document a little bit later. So so there's a so you should follow that guidance.
Yeah. So if it's just a normal project and not used commercially, would I need to apply for that?
You do need to apply if I mean, I'm assuming that your project is not like, it's going to be like the name is going to be shared to the public, right, at some point.
Yes.
So if that's the case, then yeah, the trademark rules would apply.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, James, I have a question.
Yeah, hi, Josh.
Is there a, lack of a better term, an SLA from the time that you submit your conformance test to the time that you get a yes, no from the review team?
I think there should be. I don't know what the SLA is going to be, but yeah, we can come up with a reasonable SLA for that. But that's a good point. That.
And will there be, is it one and done, or will there be a requirement for any form of one and done?
Yeah. So it's going to be versioned. So very similar to like Kubernetes. So and then the certification will probably be good for a year or something like that. Also, the certification is going to be a version because we do intend to kind of modify or improve the certification test over time. So
Makes sense.
Hey, James, can I have also a question? It's Andrew here. So
Yeah.
I just read your proposal about the Kubeflow distribution conformance and also like application conformance. So the question is, I agree with you about the application conformance, and also I remember the thread about the metadata and pipelines conformance back in 2020. So my question is, like, is there any reason to not include other application in distribution conformance tests? For example, KF serving or distributed training operators? Because imagine maybe our users wants to have their unified Kubeflow experience and not only metadata or Kubeflow pipelines.
I think this kind of goes back, to probably to last year's discussion. I think in my view, I think pipelines and metadata is kind of the lowest denominator of all the components in Kubeflow, and so this is the very basic layer that we can you can base our test on. And for for KF serving and so on, I think especially for KF serving is probably a nice example, right, where it can basically plug into the system via the component interface. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because the question is like, will it mean that distribution will be focused only on these two components when they try to build the distributions on top of the Kubeflow?
Yeah, so the distribution is not, I think the distribution, the vendors, basically, the vendors of distribution are kind of free to include, basically has a lot of freedom, right, including the applications that it wants to ship. So I think, I think probably most distributions would choose to ship, KF serving and other, Kubeflow applications that are currently in the Kubeflow project, right? So, but it does give them, freedom of shipping, mix and match, of components that are certified.
Yeah, but the question is like, in that case, why we are calling like notebooks part of the Kubeflow? Why we are calling like central dashboard part of Kubeflow, right? If we just conform it on that sections.
The reason is because I think for these two particular components, I think for central dashboard, for example, it cannot be like, it's not a orchestration target of Kubeflow pipelines, and given that it is already part of Kubeflow project, right? We basically say that it is part of Kubeflow, or it is a Kubeflow application. Now, I think for KF serving and other things that are actually can be orchestration targets, and so I think they should all be placed under the conformance program in order to obtain conformance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so your point, it doesn't really make sense to create other conformance for the other components, because it's like, for me, like, it sounds interesting why we don't include, why we don't like force distributions owners to pass the conformance test for other components. If we're naming other components also like part of the Kubeflow, not only Kubeflow pipelines.
So I think the only exception I would make from an application conformance standpoint are those that are today inside Kubeflow and that cannot be components of KF.
Right? Yeah, for the application, I completely agree with you. I mean, I'm like more talking about distributions.
For distributions, the test that I'm proposing, right, only covers KFP and metadata. So that means you have a sort of basic system, right, that can install other certified components. So so whether in this regard, customers can choose to include KF or not, right?
I think this is good discussion. I think we put this down for 20 minutes, James. I'm more than willing.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I think this is good. I think this is important for the community. And Andre, I don't mean to cut off this conversation. I had another question, and I also wanted to kind of see what the next steps are on this. So I just have a quick question: is this with KFP V1, V2 compatible?
It's going to be with V1, okay. And at some point in the future, it will be with V2. But we're not going to switch to V2 until V2 like reaches maturity and we see adoption of V2. So,
what timelines are we looking at, James?
Timeline for can you be specific about what kind of timelines?
Like to roll this out, what timelines are we looking at? As an next step?
Yeah, we're hoping like for we can roll this out in the later part of the year. Sorry, no specific timelines right now. We're looking first. So we're looking at feedback, and then in terms of execution, probably later part of this year. I think, sorry, go ahead.
So this is request for comment right now, and how long will the comment period go till the end of September? What's kind of your goal here?
Yeah, I think probably till the end of September at this point. And we can use the doc, or do you prefer like PR or like a sort of an issue? I mean, I'm open to like other formats of feedback collection.
Can you, I see that the permissions are not there to access the document.
It's shared with Kubeflow. Yeah, it's shared with Kubeflow Discuss, but maybe you're not part of Kubeflow Discuss, so just request the permission. I'll grant the permission.
Hi, James. Can I have another question?
Yeah, if Josh is okay with it.
Yeah. My question is that I saw in the documentation you saying the verification process is user need to install and the applications and kick off the testing. But I'm thinking about can this done by a web application fashion? I mean, maybe the Kubeflow community maybe can host a website and it actually run that application on the server side somewhere, and then the user just need to point to their maybe the pipeline endpoint, and they can kick off the testing. So all the testing can actually record on the server side, and later on maybe the user can say, okay, I decide to submit the test for the certification or not. Yeah.
So this is like a website where you kind of automate certain parts of Kubeflow, right?
Yeah, and then the community can host this website, right? And they can also maintain the conformance programs version, right? And then yeah, the user just need to use it. They don't have to do this kind of installation process. So yeah, you don't have to. So you can make sure that they are running this conformance version against their system, right?
I'm not sure. Like, is this something that helps user installs Kubeflow or?
No. It won't help you to install the Kubeflow, but the user just need to point to their pipeline or metadata endpoint, right? Then you can start to kick off the certification program.
Oh, you're talking about the test, right?
Yep.
Oh, the test itself. No, the test itself is probably going to be something that you download and then run it. No, so there's two tests, right? The certification test is probably going to be something that you download and run it within your cluster, and the other tests are basically a static test that runs against your component definition. So they're basic tools. Now, if you want to create a website, I don't know how that works, but I mean, maybe, but at least the initial version, probably the form factor of those tests are going to be like tools that you download.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. So there's a question on the chat where this could be a PR instead of a Google Doc. So I will. It looks like people are having access issues. So I will make this a PR in the Kubeflow. Probably Kubeflow. Which repo is? Should I use the Kubeflow repo or something else? Kubeflow community repo? Would that be better? What do you think, Josh?
I think either one works. We just need to expose where it is, and
yeah, okay.
Yeah, community may make maybe more sense, but that's fine. Whichever works.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Well, we're growing up. Now we have to get certifications. This is good, right? Thank you, James,
Josh,
for putting that together. I know starting from a blank sheet of paper and then getting it to this stage is a good amount of work, and I look forward to the community helping to provide constructive support, and I think this is going to be good for the community. So you're thinking timeline maybe this is end of year kind of
Yeah.
when we would start moving, and that may correspond with our next release as well. I think that's fantastic. Any final comments here from anyone? James, should we put you down for a check-in at the end of the month to see how things are going at the end of September as we
Yeah,
close
sounds good.
the month? Okay.
Yeah.
I will put that down in my notes to check back in with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, good. Fantastic. I think this is all good stuff. Let's see if we have other items on our agenda. I think probably at the top of the list here would be Kubeflow 1.4. We had a release team meeting yesterday. I believe Anna is going to provide some of the updates since maybe Kimonis is indisposed right now. Anna, are you available?
Yeah, sure. I can provide update for the release team. So we are in the 3rd week of the feature freeze. So we actually started testing the manifest as part of the manifest testing phase right now. So the next step for the working group is documentation. So if you have any documentation update, please make sure you update your docs. And also, if there's any issues, release blocking issues, please provide that for us. And then once the manifest testing is done, we'll probably cut an RC where distribution owners can start testing. And we asked that would be around September 6th, as noted in the agenda. And then we asked the distribution owners to start testing as soon as possible to provide us with any issues that's going to be blocking for the release. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And then we also did talk about the patch release. I don't know if everyone's aware of that discussion, but it was brought up a few times during past community meetings. And there was an issue opened up as well to make sure we get feedback from the community. But basically what the release team decided was that for any future releases, including 1.4 release, our goal is to not have a patch release. And so what we're thinking is that patch release will still happen only if the fix requires an immediate attention. But our goal is to not have patch releases in the future. And that's it.
Yeah, I think there's 2 parts there, Anna, that I want to kind of pick up a bit on. One is no patch releases and how we will ensure quality in the 1.4 release. And I do believe that our goal is that we've put an extended amount of time for testing and documentation in this release. And our goal is to have the final 1.4.0 release be production quality. And this is, quite frankly, a change from, I think, what our previous releases have been, where we've always assumed that the 1.3 or 1.2.0, there would always be a patch release that cleans up things. And our request and our thought process is that that patch release causes a second set of testing, a second set of documentation. And these are processes and resources that our teams often have to either get restarted on or do extra work. And our view is that if we could engage with both the community, the users, as well as the distribution teams during the extended time that we have in the testing, maybe, just hopefully, we can come up with a production quality RC release during the test period. And then when we come out with 1.4.0, that basically is incorporating any of the patches that are necessary after people have tested out that production quality release. So the real kind of gut check here, I think, is going to be for the distribution testing and the user testing. For those, I've already talked to some users that were testing with 1.4 already, the RC. So I know that people are out there and helping, but I do think there needs to be scrutiny, bug fix, all the PRs and issues opened. The distributions are going to need to help us make this schedule and this simplified delivery work, which means the September 6th, which is not too far away, is going to be an important date for the distribution teams to understand, and that we do need to check with all the distribution owners that they are ready for this testing. So I guess that the piece after that long soliloquy, I'm sorry, is, are there any distribution representatives on the call today? I think there's a few. And
yes.
Are there any concerns with, starting your testing on September 6th?
Hello, this is James Liu from Google. Yeah, I'm the representative of the Kubeflow 1.4 release on Google Cloud. We are ready for the distribution testing starting September 6th.
Thank you, James. I know from an Ericto standpoint, we're testing already, obviously. Anybody from Canonical is Ken, anybody there that might be able to give an update on your company's view? Are you guys going to be testing 1.4?
Hi, Josh. This is from Yihong. I'm from IBM. Yeah, we are ready for 1.4 testing on September 14th. Yeah.
And hey, this is Kenneth Krosky at Canonical. We will also be ready for testing.
Wonderful.
Yeah, same is the case from Nutanix as well.
Nutanix, fantastic. And welcome to you guys. Appreciate the enthusiasm and energy that you bring in every time a new distribution comes in. I think it's good for all the rest of us. I think there's still questions probably around AWS and Azure. And I don't know that there's any either one of those representatives here today. But I think we should make a point to double check with them as well, and I'll bring that back to the release team.
Hey Josh, this is also Red Hat OpenShift. Most likely we will be ready, but I have a question with regards to asking all the distributions if they're ready, and what does it mean that they're testing on that date? I mean, previously we were actually submitting our code to the distribution manifest folder, which is up on the upstream on Kubeflow, but now we're all doing it on our own repos. So how does that fit in? Is it just to kind of announce that this distribution is ready and that's where you get it, or I still don't understand?
Yeah, I think, look, that's a very good question because this is a transition for all the distributions as well. And from the release team, I'm not sure that we exactly define that process because of the change. But the point is that we have an RC, the first RC that's available today. I suspect by the time we get to the 6th, there'll be a second RC available. And that would be, I think, what we would want the distributions to start testing with. But I understand that you, for example, probably have resources and people that you have to get aligned and ready to start the testing. My kind of point is that we would like to see you starting to work through your test cycles and have your whatever your process is to have early end user testing on those on that RC or variant of that as we work forward, so we can make the September 27th final version. Does that help answer the question, or
yeah, I'm thinking so. Yeah, I'm thinking this is just for reporting bugs back, right? Because tagging the repo is not going to be reliant on the distributions anymore unless there's bugs. Is that what it is? So are we waiting to announce by September 27 that all the distributions are ready, or whatever number of distributions are ready and the bugs are fixed?
That would be the goal, that we have distribution saying that it is production quality ready by the 27th.
Okay, got it. So it's just an announcement and bug fixes versus actually tagging the distribution code.
I'd have to think about what the tagging of the distribution code, what the ramifications of that would be, but I don't know if Anna or anybody else on the release team have, or Rui have any comments on that.
My understanding is that once the new RC is cut after the manifest testing, that we ask the distribution owners to just test and report back any issues. Other than that, I'm not sure.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
We'll take that back to the release team and see if the next meeting we can have or just get back to you with a final tie a bow around that.
Okay, thanks, Josh.
Okay, this is good, right? I mean, I think this is a good process, good quality that we're trying to instill. And the next thing that Rui, I think, is Rui on the phone?
Yeah, I'm here, Josh.
Hey, buddy. Is documentation. We do get a lot of requests on documentation, and we have a comment or a space here to talk about this. Rui, do you want to give an update here on your item?
Yeah, so on my items, so just following the normal procedure whenever there's a release. So we cut the branch of the current version so that we point the docs to that branch, and then we can start working on new version documentation without affecting the current users. So you can follow the versioning guide as pointed out there. Then one thing that we've identified was that some of the working groups, particularly pipelines, have already worked on some documentation of latest versions, for instance, KFP version 0.7, and have merged those PRs to master, which might make sense to be part of version 1.3 docs, version 1.4 docs, but not 1.3. And so we'll have to kind of cherry pick PRs and kind of cut that branch. And so here I think the call to action for me is ask any working group leads if they are merging documentation that they see is already for the latest version, that they would kind of inform me or find or wait until there's actually that cut of the branch to merge new PRs, so that we have that branch be just version 1.3 specific and not have new documentation and end up being confusing for users.
So Rui, I just want to make sure that I understand this. We, right now, master has 1.3 in it, correct? The master has the
So
1.3.
master is always evolving, right? Because
Right.
everyone is making PRs to master. So what we have to do is to get to the best version of version 1.3, we would kind of remove any latest updates that are already in a version that is 1.4, and then keep that to kind of have a snapshot of master and create version 1.3 branch.
Got it. Okay. And then people that want the 1.4 or the 1.4 docs are just going to look into master.
So it's kind of a 4-step process. Let me here. So what we'll do is we'll cut version 1.3 branch, and then we'll point the website to that branch so that new documentation changes are not visible for end users before the release of 1.4. And then once 1.4 is released, then the docs are again pointed back to master. So that's the versioning guide that we've been following for the previous releases. I haven't seen a strong conviction to change that process, but yeah, I would be open to it if people have a different and better process. We had a discussion yesterday about this as well in the release the release team meeting. It seemed like the process to follow, I think.
Are there any timelines that we should be aware of that are upcoming on this process?
So right now, I think as for instance, new versions are coming out and they are already 1.4 specific, right? Is that true? Is it true that KFP version 1, like the latest docs of KFP, they should be only for 1.4 users? Are the KFP leads here?
Hello, this is James Liu from KFP. If I understand correctly, there will be a time gap between now and 1.4 release where user cannot see a head version of doc. Is that right?
Through this current process, yes, that's right.
I see. Yeah, so I would like to bring up the specialty, or maybe it's common for many Kubeflow components as well, is that KFP has its own standalone deployment process. So if they choose to deploy KFP itself using 1.7 or 1.6 or other versions, they can do that. So it's not like tightly coupled with the Kubeflow version. So that's where I kind of like hesitate to agree right away. But I think that like the overall process makes sense. In terms of like, if this is Kubeflow 1.3 branches, then the corresponding KFP version is 1.5.1. So we should include only the 1.5.1 information in the Kubeflow 1.3 branches. But it's just like the gap that between now and 1.4 is the time that we need to use for showing the latest version of KFP. So people can reference to them using in their daily life. For example, if they want to use the visualization SDK, like visualization is from UI and SDK is the V2 compatible changes. Some of them is not yet available in Kubeflow 1.3, but they are ready in the latest changes. So yeah, so that just want to bring up that if we can improve the process a little bit by having the head version all the time, that will be very helpful.
I think this brings us to that recurring question of what is a Kubeflow version, right? And so what you're saying is that you could use Kubeflow 1.3 with the latest pipelines, right? And that would work.
Yes,
and so
it's possible.
You don't want to tie, a specific version of pipelines to a specific version of Kubeflow.
Right, and not necessarily like not too tight, like because each Kubeflow release has its own corresponding initial KFP version. So I know there's a connection between Kubeflow and Kubeflow pipelines versioning. But it's just that while we are preparing the doc for Kubeflow 1.4 release, there's a time gap that we don't show the head version of the Kubeflow doc. That is
I see.
not, yeah. Yes.
So you would rather keep the almost when we release 1.4, we would cut a branch and then clean it up for 1.3, so that there's no that time gap doesn't exist.
Yeah. If there's no time gap, then awesome. I think that's good. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the clarity there. I'm good.
No, thank you.
I'm gonna send also a follow-up email so that maybe people can chime in over email, and and we can see when to cut this new branch and when to point docs to it at what stage.
Sounds good, and happy to discuss further about this. This is only my opinions, but it doesn't need to be the final decision. We can discuss more about the technical detail and more. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Ray.
No, thank you.
So somewhat related to this is we would like to put some community energy towards getting the docs into good shape. And Rui, we talked about potentially having, and I think you've agreed that it would be good to have a doc sprint on September 14th.
Yeah, for sure.
And our thought here is that doc sprint would run at on the same bridge as the community meeting. So we would have a short community meeting in 2 weeks, hopefully, and then have folks come in and talk about the PRs that they have created for docs. And our real goal and request is for users. We know there's a lot of power users out there. We know that there's a lot of distributions out there, working groups. If folks could just do one PR and bring it to the doc sprint and explain what they did and try to get it over the edge, get it over the line, that would be, I think, very helpful if we could just get people to commit to do one document PR. And I know that Google has said that anybody that does a doc sprint PR will get a Kubeflow contributor t-shirt. Hopefully some folks have already started to at least order their t-shirts, but I think that process is working. My view here is if we can help Rui, if we can help the docs, if the users can also be involved in this, it would help us tremendously. Because often the working group or the distribution folks that are living this every day, they write the docs in a certain way. and the insight from the user who's reading it can be very helpful. So what's the theory here? Do we think that we can get some people to sign up to do some docs PR and be able to kind of bring those September 14th in a couple of weeks to explain the 1 or 2 PRs that they've done? Is that unreasonable request or is that reasonable? Rui, you're supposed to say that's reasonable, by the way, Doug.
More than reasonable. Yep. On my side, yes.
Do any of the distribution owners think that they would be able to help with 1 PR on the docs? You know, one of the pages that may be important to them, for example. Okay, I know that all of you are trying to fight to say that you want to do the documentation. So I'll say that, I'll take that as a lazy consensus. Yes, you'll think about it. And then the working group too, if you folks could think about it. But I would also like to push on the users, especially the users that are open source and, you know, doing it themselves. If y'all could really think about helping out the community in this way, I think that's really what community is about. There's a lot of effort that goes into the software. We're on what, the 12th release over 4 years. Lots of work, if you measured it up in hours spent, to have the system as it is, and it just needs some care and feeding. So I appreciate that. We're over time. Any final questions or comments before we close out?
Hi, can I ask a question on the behalf of users?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I wanted to provide more examples in the documentation. So NVIDIA has released an article in which they used multi-instance GPU and Triton inference server, but they do it on Kubernetes. So I was thinking maybe we could, I could do that on KF serving instead of doing that on Kubernetes, and also provide more examples and also make projects to help new users better understand the Kubeflow.
I think that's fantastic, right? There's potentially a lot there to do in a month, but I would pick off a bite-sized chunk and try to define it and expose it to the community, and that way we will try to make sure that you get the resources to kind of help on some of the questions that will probably come up as you go down that path.
Yeah, so I was hoping to, so I'm going to try to implement the flower classification example they are provided. So we do live inference on that. So I was, they did it on Kubernetes, and they made their own load balancer using Nginx Plus, and also their own horizontal pod autoscaler. So I was hoping to do that entirely on KF serving. So it is example oriented documentation, so users can better understand learning from examples.
I agree. We're a little bit over time. I want to make sure that anybody who has desire to help or support with you have a way to do it. I assume you'll open up either some form of issue or PR in GitHub and help it to expose that. Potentially you can expose it here on this on the Kubeflow community agenda, or as well, so we can see your updates as you go along, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, welcome, and thanks everybody for their help today. Rubber hits the road here coming into September. Let's let's make sure that we continue down our process, just work the process, and I am confident we'll come out with a very high quality release by the end of the month. Thanks again, and I look forward to speaking with y'all next week.